Hello guys, welcome back. So today we'll be trying to make this sketch and maybe a different version as well with circles, and let's see how it goes. So let me first go to the whiteboard and I'll explain what we'll be doing. So we will need, basically, like we saw, we will need some square. So this square, right? It will be a square. So this and this will be the same size, right? And we will call this size. Um, this is going to be, so we're going to create a class, right? Just so that it's easier to create them and update them as we see fit, right? So we're going to create a class, maybe call it square. Yeah, I am not really imaginative, but let's call it square. This class is going to have size. What else does it need? So we saw it moving, right? We saw the square going from here um, to down there, right? So it would be something like this, right? I'm not really great at drawing, but it's rotating, right? So we'll have inside the square class as well another attributes. We can call it angle, right? That's fine. Or rotation, right? Whatever you want to call it. So we'll call it angle. What else did we notice? We noticed that the square was getting smaller, right? So it was, as time was going on, square was getting smaller. So maybe the size is going to need to change, and the angle is also going to need to change through time, through the frames that we draw on the screen. So what else does our square needs? It needs a position, right? So position of the square, right? So x and y value. This is basically what the square needs. Now, in terms of making those change, and well, this one should never change, right? So this one is always going to be the same position. And the position is not going to be the top left, like by default in processing. We're going to set the rect mode to being the center, right? So the position is going to be the center of the square. So I was thinking we could have a class for updating the square, right? Uh, update, uh, update. There we go. So update, not going to receive any argument. We'll need to change the size. So I was thinking the size is big to start with, and it's getting smaller, right? So size, we want to make it smaller, right? Then the angle. The angle. I mean, the angle, we could start it at some value, or we could start at 0. It doesn't really matter, right? So we could say angle, and this would be, I'm thinking, a random value. So random value, right? And I'll put in parentheses big, right? Because whenever we create the square, we want the square size to be pretty big to start with, and then get smaller, right? So we'll create it with a random value that's kind of big, and then an angle, we can set it to something. Right now I'm just putting at 0. In the update, we want to reduce the square size, and then we want to rotate it as well, so the angle should change, either positive or negative. It doesn't really matter as long as it changes through time. And then the position, we don't change it, we keep it as is. So that's pretty much the angle function, the update function, sorry. Then we should have some kind of show or draw function for that square. So I was thinking we would translate to that position, right, to the square position. After translating, we want to rotate by that angle. So awesome. And then we just need to draw the square, right? So I'm going to call it square. It's definitely not that, but square. I'm not even sure if there's a square. And we want it at 0, 0, since we've already updated the position, like the where we're going to draw over here. So we will just draw it at that position, and we want the size to be the size, right? Both width and height for the square is going to be the same, which is going to be the size. Awesome. That's pretty much it. The last thing I forgot, right? We had colors in there. So let's add a color variable as well to our attributes. This, we're going to set a random value based on a list of colors, right? So over here, we want to fill the square by the color before drawing the square. And that's pretty much it for the show function. So that's pretty much the whole concept behind one square being drawn. So let's get right into it and implement this. So, all right, let me kill this. Let me go up. So I had done it previously. So what I'm going to keep from the sketch is just the colors. So it's just an array of colors. Feel free to look up, I'm suggesting colors.co, I think. So no, colors, well, let me just search for colors. Whoa. This is what oh yeah, colors with 2 O's. Yeah, my bad. So this site, really great. Go into tools, explore palettes. I just chose a random palette in here that I thought that the colors look great, but you can choose whatever palette you want. You can click the 3 dots for any of those, export palette, choose whatever format you want. And that's pretty much how I got my colors, because I'm really not the best at choosing colors. So let's start with our class, right? So our square class. Awesome. So we said we wanted an angle. We wanted a color. Let's call it col, just because color is already used, as we can see. What else do we wanted? We wanted a position. This position is I'm going to use a p vector just to make my life a little bit easier. I mean, it really wouldn't change much to use x and y as 2 separate attributes, but that's it. And we wanted a size, right? So a size. Awesome. So let's make up the constructor for the square. So here we'll have the square. I'm not going to pass it anything. What I'm going to do with the position is just, it's like a random point on the canvas. So let's go with that. Let's start with this. So position is going to be a new p vector that is going to be its x being a random value between 0 and the width, and its y being also a random value between 0 and the height this time. Awesome. So that's pretty much it for the position. Now, what else? The color, right? So this dot col, right? So we're going to use, we said, a random color from our list of colors. So let's start with that. So colors at index, and then selecting a random index for that list of colors. And then the angle, I'm thinking we could have angle set as 0 by default. We'll definitely be changing that, but for right now, let's keep it at 0. Is that it? No, I'm missing the size, right? So we said the size, we could use a random value that is pretty big. I'm thinking pretty big, between like 300 and 500 is pretty big, I'm thinking, but you do you. Great. So we said now we wanted an update function, method actually, but doesn't matter, it's fine. So the update, we wanted to make the radius smaller, make it smaller by, we could randomize that as well. So let me do that. So minus equals random, and let's go from a value between 10 and 15 for right now. We might want to change this, but that's fine for right now. And we also wanted to update the angle, right? If I remember correctly. Yes. So the angle, either making it bigger, smaller, it doesn't matter. The only thing that is important to note right now is I'm going to use not angle as like angle in degrees from 0 to 360, but I'm going to use radians. So it's going to be from 0 to 2 pi for a full circle, right? So we might want to update that value a little bit at smaller steps than if we were to update like an angle in the terms of like the angle being like from 0 to 360. In this case, it's going to be 0 to 2 pi, right? Which is a pretty small number, right? Compared to not radius. What am I saying? Size. A pretty small number compared to 360, right? So that's pretty much it for the update we said. And then we want a show function or draw function, whatever you'd like to call it. So we said we wanted to translate to that position that we set. Dot x, and let's copy this, and dot y. Okay, awesome. We wanted to rotate, so rotate by the angle. And then what else? We want to fill the color, fill the square color. Awesome. And then draw the square, right? So in our case, to draw a square, I don't even know, maybe processing as a square function. We can check it. Square, I mean, it does seem to exist. So why not use that, right? So yeah, sure. Width and height of the video, sure. Let's do square. And then it's going to be at 0, 0. Like we said, we already translated, so we don't need to set the position of the square since the position is going to be the translated place on the canvas. And then its size, like a side length. So this dot size in our case, size. Size, awesome. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the square. Let's see if that works. Let's try and do the void setup, the setup function. Awesome. Let's do full screen for right now. I don't see why not. And let's do a background only once in the setup. Background, let's say black. It could be white. It could be any colors. It doesn't matter. At some point in time, it's going to get filled in, right? So that doesn't really matter. Let's have also a variable for our square that we want to create. So let's call it S because square is already taken as we saw here. So let's call it S. Not the best naming, but it's fine. It's going to be a new square. That's pretty much it. Let's just see if s.update, well, s.show works, right? If it's showing a square with some colors onto the screen. Awesome. So we do have a square. Great. Now, we want to do this in the draw loop and the update as well. So, well, let me just get a bit space. There we go. Awesome. So let's do the draw function. So for every time true draw, we want to update the square and we want to show the square, right? So let me do this and we'll see what happens. But I'm thinking there is going to be an issue, right? Let's see. Yeah, there is definitely an issue. I mean, it's interesting to see. It's definitely what I was looking for. So this is because, let's look at it again. But whenever it gets to like 0, basically in terms of size, it's getting smaller, like minus whatever it is. And this is interpreted, it seems, from P5 as it's just the absolute value of the size that we're passing it. So we might want to say something like if the square.size is smaller than 0, then no loop, right? Stop doing what you're doing. Or even like 10, right? We don't want it to get to 0, right? So that's fine. Awesome. So let me quit. So okay, there we go. I think we're having an issue right now where I believe I know why, but where the square is moving, right? The position should always be the middle of the first square that it's getting drawn, right? So the issue is because we're translating, I'm thinking multiple time, maybe not. Let me try something else. Let me do push matrix. Oh, no, you know what? I know what's happening. We forgot to set the rect mode to center, right? So it's still drawing the square from 0, 0 being the top left corner of the square, but we want it to be the middle of the square, right? So let's see this. Now that's looking better, right? So I'm thinking also it could use a little bit more moving in terms of angle, like it could rotate a bit more. This is looking more like it, right? So awesome. So we have one square now. I think I'm going to keep it at one square. The only thing I'm going to say is like whenever it's at the, like whenever we're stopping currently to like draw it, we can just create a new square, right? There. But that should keep it going. So if we take a look, yeah, that's cool. One thing I might want to change right now is that all of the squares are starting at the same angle, which is a bit not boring, but it's not what I want personally. It might be what you want, but definitely not what I was expecting when creating this, right? So let me do something like here, right? Whenever we create the square, this angle, it could be just randomly set, right? We could just randomly set it between 0 and 2 pi. I don't see why not. So let's see this. So now they don't start all at the same angle, right? You have this one, so it's changing. So that's cool. One other thing I'm thinking, do we all want them to swirl in the same direction, or do we want them to swirl in different directions? We could do this as well, right? So this is basically an increment, right? So we can add this to here, right? We could have float, call it increment, and use this in here. So, and we could set the increment, this dot increment being equal to, let's say we want 50% of the time it being, well, let's do a random value for right now. If I can type, there we go. So let's do a random value, and we saw that our previous one was this, right? And it was moving pretty quickly. So I'm thinking we can say a random value between minus this, so that it goes the other direction, and this, right? Yeah, let's try and see what it looks like. So some of them are going a lot faster, some small, some lower, some are going in one direction, some in the other. That's great. Personally, I want them to all go at the same speed, turn at the same speed. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get a random number between 0 and 1, which if I just call random, it's going to give me a random number between 0 and 1. I'm going to say if the number that we got is greater than 0.5, so that would mean 50% of the time. Then after the question mark, we're going to say if that is true, if we got 50% of the time, then we want 0.1 as the increment. Otherwise, we want minus 0.1. So let's see this. What's the issue? Random float. No, it is expecting a value. Let's put it like this. That's fine. There we go. So now 50% of the time, going in one direction, and the other 50, it's going in the other direction. So that's pretty much it for the sketch. You could change maybe the stroke if you wanted. I can even change it in here. Don't need to change it in the rectangle, but you could change it in the rectangle like randomly, right? We could have the stroke being white instead of black, right? So let's take a look. Oh, it's looking good. It's definitely different, but I do like it, I have to say, right? So you can wait for it to fill the whole screen. You could draw multiple multiple square all at once, right? You could do like an array of squares and go through them in the draw loop and do the same thing for all of them. That could work also. But currently, I think drawing one at a time is fine. Eventually, we're going to get to a point where there's no black anymore on the screen. The whole screen is filled in. So I think that could be interesting as well to see. You can maybe do it with circles, where instead of turning them, right? Because turning circles wouldn't be visible. Actually, I mean maybe, but I mean it wouldn't be visible really. So instead of rotating them, you could move their position in a rotation, right? So they would kind of move, if you wanted, like a worm, kind of. But yeah, I'm going to leave you with this. Hopefully you like the video. Comment on it. Share me whatever you make with this. It would be awesome to see. And see you in the next one. Thank you.